if people don't pay for information, they don't pay attention to it.
They don't value it.
They run around the internet cobbling bits and pieces of information together, trying to develop a strategy, and it doesn't work.
Welcome back to Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a guest with me, a friend of mine who I've known, a Taekwondo champion, has been in business for many, many years. 5th Dan black belt, Michelle Hext. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
It's a very interesting story you've got. Now, you share a passion of mine, martial arts.
Yep.
So I don't know where you want to start, but tell us a bit about your journey. Tell us a bit about your fighting career, how that mixes with your work.
Yeah. Oh, you're taking me back now. So I started Taekwondo in 1991. I was 23 and I fell in love with it. The minute I started, it felt like I was home. I loved the structure. I loved the discipline. I just loved everything about it. I love the system that I worked with. We worked through a belt system, and I knew that every 3 months, if I did my work and I showed up to class and tried my best, I could achieve another belt. And what I loved about that was the certainty around it. I knew it relied on me, but I knew that nobody was going to change it. You know, I grew up in domestic violence and had a pretty crazy childhood. So there was no structure. And this is why I leaned into it so much. I just knew that the rules weren't going to change. If I arrived to class every term like I was supposed to and did the training and did it to the best of my ability, I'd have the opportunity to grade.
Yeah, I remember, which was remarkable, you said you got your first job at 14 and you moved out at 16.
Yeah.
That's incredible for anyone to be going through. And I think martial arts provides that discipline and that structure, which is why I love it so much. People think it's about violence, but it's so much more. It's about not having to fight. It's about learning structure.
Yeah, and it's about, as I said, for me, the rules didn't change every 5 minutes. It was, this is what you did to achieve this thing. I would get my syllabus at the start of the term, and I knew that if I knew these kicks, I knew these patterns, I knew these things, then I knew I could go ahead and grade. And so that just became the rhythm of my life, grading. And very, very quickly, I was instructing. I was instructing and taking warm-ups about 3 months into starting. I was just naturally a leader in that space. And
you loved it, you were passionate.
Yeah. And I've always been able to see where people need support. I've always been able to see when they're struggling with something and how I can help them fix it, you know.
And that probably helps a lot in what you're currently doing now with your coaching and your branding and helping people sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask, how long did it take you to get a black belt? I
had my black belt in a little over, it was about 20, it was between 18 and 24 months. Maybe it was 24. It's such a long time ago, but I double graded every single color belt grading except for one. And yeah, I was the first black belt in my school.
So for our listeners, that mean double grading means?
So for example, you go from white belt to yellow 1 stripe, and then you grade for yellow 2 stripe, and then you grade for yellow 3 stripe, the same through blue and red. Then there's a probationary black belt in some schools, and then first Dan. And so
there's no brown belt? That's different.
Yeah, different style. I mean, yeah, the belt systems are different for everybody, but we have white, yellow, blue, red, black with the stripes. Yep. And my first grading, I graded for yellow belt 1 and yellow belt 2. Then the next 3 months later, I graded for yellow belt 3, blue 1. So I was on my yellow belt for a really short amount of time. And then I graded up to blue 3, then, yeah.
And you're now you got 5 dans, which is very impressive. How long did they take you to get?
Yeah, so I had a big wait in between my first Dan and my second Dan because I had a baby. And then I had lots of issues with instructors and head instructors. Back in the day, they didn't like ambitious women who wanted to do it themselves. They didn't like it. And so I wasn't well received. If I just wanted to remain a student, I was a very good student. I'm a very good student. And people loved to have me in their classes and all the rest of it. But the minute I started to show ambition, I got to see that, oh, okay, this is blatant sexism. Okay. And so I struggled with instructors, head instructors and things like that. So it took me longer. So I'm fifth Dan. I graded for my fifth, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now. I won't grade for my sixth. I don't need to do that. I don't feel like I've got anything I need to prove to anyone or myself. So I feel good where I am.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, but like by rights, if I had have kept grading, by the time I graded for fifth, I should have been getting ready to grade for seventh. I think that's how it worked. So it's usually a year between first and second, 2 years between second and third, but I had bigger gaps than that.
Now, obviously, you started your own, but you were teaching martial arts, which you sold that school.
Yeah.
So when did you start being an entrepreneur and now lead it into your current job now?
Well, I was an entrepreneur as a martial arts school owner. You know, I was doing things very, very differently. I had the newspapers in the palm of my hand. You know, I was very good with PR and getting write-ups for our school and things like that.
Why do you think that was? Now, I know you trained up to 150 kids, which is massive, but why do you think that was?
Because I'm a people person and people like me, you know, and I will ask the questions and I'll position things in a way that makes it a win-win. You know, it's not all about, it's never been all about me. It's been about the people that I teach, whether it's in the business that I have now or the students that I had or the online fitness clients that I had at the time. My marketing was always around their results, not what I was doing.
So you mentioned that obviously you had challenges growing up and then you found a love, which was Taekwondo. What are some of the key takeaways you learned from going into a discipline like martial arts, like Taekwondo?
Well, as I said, I learned that the rules don't always change. Like that was the first thing for me in life where I got to understand that you could rely on something. There was a predictability in the rhythm of it. So that was really interesting. And then being free, knowing that the rules weren't going to change. And I know I'm harping on this, but so for example, I knew that if I did these things, I could achieve the next level, you know, based on what was written on a piece of paper. And that gave me the freedom to just go all in and do the best that I could. I wanted to be the best that I could be. Never competed with anyone else. It was always about how can I make this front kick the best front kick I've ever done.
Michelle versus Michelle.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Which is the best competition. So tell us a little about your current business now, because I read some of the statistics that you shared on what a growing industry, it's an emerging market, and we're going to talk about those figures, but tell us a bit about that first. Your current role now is helping people build their brands and get known.
Yeah. So I work with two types of people. So I work with coaches who are, well, we'll talk about those stats just for a second. So of all the coaches that come into the industry, and it's a lot, there is something like less than 5% of coaches will ever earn six figures.
I read that,
which is crazy, right? Because it's so easy to earn in coaching. So I work with those people and I basically undo all the crap that they learned in coaching school, and I teach them how to trust themselves and package and position themselves and go out and market in a way that feels really good to them. And I help them become specialists, not generalists. Like I want them to pick a niche and dominate that niche. Yeah. And so that's the coaching market. And I also work with like the natural leaders within in any industry. So the ones that are successful and they become known in their industry. People know them. People are talking about them.
Expert leaders, industry specialists.
Yeah, whatever it is. And then they have this desire to mentor or teach what they know. And sometimes they don't know they want to do that until they've realized over a certain period of time that I've got a lot of people asking me how I did what I did. I've got a lot of people asking me to help them. And then they realize, oh, okay, I could move into mentorship and teach what I know. And so it's not necessarily about money for them because they're successful already, but it's about imparting their knowledge. There's nothing successful people like more than anything else
paying it
forward and teaching what they know, but they just don't really know how to make that happen. And so I launched them as a personal brand, and there are many different ways that we do it. But it comes down to how we're positioning them. What are the products that they're going to be selling? So coaching offers, it could be a mastermind, it could be an online academy, it could be anything. So I help them develop their offer suite. I help them develop their teaching frameworks. So they know what they know, and they don't always necessarily know how to
translate it outwards to sell
so
it.
it's like, well, I got here, but if I'm going to teach it to somebody, what's the first step? And then what is the structure?
The framework.
Yeah. What is the success pathway look like for my
Something that
clients?
people do habitually is very, very different than people explain it. So great sports people, sometimes they make great coaches because they just do things habitually. They've done it for hours and hours and they're just great at it.
Yeah.
And they don't always make the best coaches because they're naturally gifted athletes.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the same when you're become a leader in an industry. How do you reverse engineer framework to be able to teach that one to many?
That is the biggest hiccup. Most people they don't know how to do that, which shocks me. But that is the bulk of my work. So I help them, as I say, develop their offer suite, develop their teaching frameworks, develop the marketing for them. So for some of my people, they're going to want to get on stage. So I have a product called Coach on Stage where I teach people how to fill a room with highly targeted audience and sell from stage, present something of value and then sell from stage. Other people do webinars. There's so many ways that we can market. And then we scale with something like an online academy or a membership or something like that. So they're my favorite people because they already have everything. They already have a receptive audience as well. So whereas when the coaches come to me, they're usually fresh out of coaching school or they're a year or two down the track and they're a little bit battered and beaten because they've been trying everything and nothing's worked.
It's hard, it's competitive.
Yeah. And so they're starting without an audience. And even the audience that they've got is usually not that great because they're still finding their way. They haven't written on a chalkboard, this is who I am and what I do. Yeah. So the people that come to me who are already successful, they're the easiest clients because they already have an attentive market. There are people that are already asking them, can you help me do this thing? And so they're very easy to get big results for.
So you just structure it and off you go. Because obviously and I read your statistics, only 5%, as you mentioned before, make six figures. It's every second person online is a coach.
Yeah.
The same, I'm in real estate. Every second person online is a real estate expert. And ironically, a lot of these people don't own real estate. They've been in the game for a long time.
Yeah.
And I say be very, very careful who you get advice from.
Yeah.
Free advice is usually the most expensive because in most cases, uneducated or they've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's different if you've got someone that has a business, that has built a brand, like you said, that successful person that teaches because he has the proven track record. He has, or they have the battle scars that they've endured through being in business.
Yep.
So it's very, very different.
Very, very different. And, free content isn't necessarily always crappy, but if people don't pay for information, they don't pay attention to it.
They don't value it.
Yeah. And so they gather, I call it, they run around the internet cobbling bits and pieces of information together, trying to develop a strategy, and it doesn't work.
But it's, you know what, too much information, it's paralysis by analysis. Yeah. When you have too much information, it's easy to get confused in all the noise.
Yeah.
It's by deciphering that to understand this is going to be beneficial and this is what can have an impact, which is, I guess, where you can provide someone who's an expert in their industry that clarity.
Yeah. I remember a story, this young kid, he was 19, he was a personal trainer and he came to me and he wanted to work with me, and we sat down and we had this conversation and he said, I'm going to launch an online membership. It's going to be a fitness membership and it's going to be great and everyone's going to buy it. And it's like, mate, no one's going to buy it. And he said, no, I've got clients. They've all said that they'll buy. And I said to him, like, in the nicest possible way, you're like 5'2" and you're a little guy and you're competing with Commando Steve, like who people don't know you. And there's nothing that's going to, from a marketing perspective, nobody's
make you stand out. So what happened?
So he said, no, I believe in this product. It's going to sell. I'm like, okay, you go do that and come back and see me afterwards. Let me know how you go. He said, not one person bought. all these people that said they would buy. And I said, I told
It's all
you.
talk.
Yeah, because people will say that to make you feel better.
When the rubber meets the road, it's very, very different.
100%.
When it comes to people making that investment, putting their hand in their pocket, it's a very different proposition.
Yeah. And so I said to him, so let's figure out what is not that, but how we can make you successful. And I said, what are you good at? What do people ask you about? And he said, well, they're always asking me how I get clients. And I'm like, tell me about that. And he said, well, I lived in a small country town. I left school. I started as a PT and I was fully booked within 8 weeks. He said, and then I moved to the city and I was within 8 weeks, I was fully booked again. I'm like, okay, so can you teach people how to get fully booked? And he said, yeah, I can do that. And I'm like, okay, so you are the PT business success coach. And he's like, yeah, okay. So we marketed him, positioned him that way, and he was doing 10K months in no time, bought his first Mercedes, drove it around to my house. I was working from home back then, and showed me his car, you know, and he's gone on to do very big things. I've created a bit of a monster. He's a bit egotistical, but that's okay. We're not mentioning names. But yeah, he just took off. And I love that story because a lot of people will come to me thinking with one idea, and I've been in the industry long enough to know what flies and what doesn't. Yeah. And I just knew. But I let him go away and try it. But I love that because
that was very clever though that you did that, because a lot of people get very emotional in love with an idea, and it takes an outside fresh perspective to say, hang on a second, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And your emotional intelligence to say to him, you know what? You're not going to argue with him because he's going to believe what he's going to believe. So your approach to say, you know what? Go do you, come back. You know he's coming back.
Yeah.
Because he's going to go, hang on, I fell on my face. Michelle said I was going to fall on my face, and here you go. That was the only way to actually get that guy back to you in the correct manner, because his guard's down. I better listen. Maybe she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
If you tried anything other at that point, you're just going to butt heads.
Yeah. And I don't need the business that bad. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't need to take somebody on and then have to convince them that this is the way to go. So yeah, it's an approach that's always worked well. Yeah.
So obviously it's such a rising tide market, this coaching industry, and so many people. I think you said something like 5 million coaches, or there's so many coaches, and it's going to be $1 trillion industry in 2027?
Yeah, the coaching and education industry will be $1 trillion industry by 2027.
Why do you think it's such a rising tide industry?
Because there's so much potential for growth, right? We are uncapped, and it's an easy industry to get into as well. It's
because low barrier to entry.
Low barrier to entry.
Qualifications, especially if you're someone or you've got a business or you've got a social following, tick, go.
Yeah, but you don't even need a social following because we've got ads. You know, ads will do that for you. You don't need an audience to start to make money. So the sad thing though, I spoke earlier about 5% of coaches will
make over 6 figures. Yeah.
Well, less than 5% will do that. So when it becomes $1 trillion industry, it's still going to be the same 5% because nothing's changed.
So they're just going to make more money.
Yep.
Because what would you think that is though? Because they don't have the tools. What is it?
Coaches don't understand business and marketing. They understand coaching. They understand helping people solve problems and deal with their emotions if they're a life coach or whatever. They help them take action. They understand all of those things, and they've been sold this idea that all you have to do is package up your products, go on social media and talk about it. And in 2015, that might have worked, but it doesn't work anymore.
Too competitive, so many people are doing it. What is saturated? What is it?
Yeah, exactly. All of those things. Like it's a very busy market.
What, in your opinion, Michelle, differentiates those 5%? What makes them stand out?
We're specialists. We niche. We have conviction and belief behind the things that we do, and we show up. Like we show up even when we don't feel like showing up. Yeah, and we do things like write books and launch podcasts and
appear on podcasts.
Yeah, all of those things. So the crazy thing is you can take a brand new coach who has had a lot of success in their life, but they're not a trained coach, right? So they might have I don't know, worked in corporate for 10 years and they've been very successful and now they've got this little side hustle and now they want to go full-time in their side hustle. It's like they completely forget that they had a life before they became a coach and they think none of that is relevant. But I don't know about you, but I don't want a 22-year-old life coach. I want a 50, 60, 70-year-old life coach.
Someone with experience.
Yeah.
Like we said, the battle scars. But like, it's easy for you now because you've been doing this for a long time. And I don't mean the journey was easy. You would have had a lot of ups and downs, like all of us.
Yeah.
But I can look at you and say, this lady has experience. There's a big difference. What would you say to someone that's getting into the industry that wants to become, what advice would you give them?
The first thing that I would have them think about is, what do you want to stand for? What's the hill you want to die on? What are we building a brand around? What is your thing? Like
your values, your product, what are you referring to?
Yeah, well, another client of mine was a martial arts school owner who became a success coach and mentor in that space. Very, very good at growing martial arts schools, student base, all of those things. Very good at marketing his school, and he wanted to help other school owners be successful. That was his thing. He'd cracked the code and he wanted to take that to the schools that were struggling. And so it was he was very easy, but
did he do well?
Yeah, he did something like $450K within 4 months of working with me as his side hustle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he launched a mastermind and a membership.
With a high profit margin too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Minus your leads, your marketing.
All online. No, he didn't need to market for leads because he already had people looking at him.
So it was a massively, it's not about side hustle. It's about
I had him. It's an interesting story. He was telling me about this amazing marketing campaign that he'd run through Meta, and he had a bunch of people sign up and he was all excited about it. And I said, okay, well, we're going to run a webinar on that. You're going to teach people how to do that. And this was like within a week of us working together. And he said, I've never run a webinar in my life. And I'm like, that's okay. You'll figure it out. And so we set this date for the webinar and he said, so I just do it for free. And I said, no, you're going to charge $500 for it. And he's like, they won't pay it. They won't pay it. And I'm like, just trust me. The results that he got were outstanding. And so he
because you knew so much about the topic?
Yeah, I knew. He knew about the topic, but I knew people would pay for what he knew.
So how did you know he would be successful?
I knew he had information that was going to make other people successful. They didn't have that information. They didn't have it. They didn't know how to market their businesses. So we ran this webinar. He didn't think anyone would sign up. He did $8,000 just from the webinar. And then we sold the replay for $500. So we did $14,000 just from the webinar. And on that webinar, that's where he did that 400 and something thousand. Because I said, well, we need to get your mastermind ready to go because people are going to want to buy into something. So we built it all on the fly. It was pretty rushed.
So you just keep building up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So an ascension model where they pay the $500 initially, then the mastermind, which is more expensive.
Yeah, it was like $1,000 a month.
So that's obviously makes a massive difference in someone's life, and he's given information that's going to transform other people's lives. Do you think the skills that you have that you offer people is transferable in all industries?
Yeah.
Why?
It's because if you're a personal brand and you want to help people, you want to teach what you know is probably the best way to explain it. I can show you how to do that.
So it's basically, from what you said before, it's all methodology, it's all
frameworks.
It's all explaining it. And I say this all the time to my team. A confused mind doesn't act.
Yeah.
A confused mind doesn't buy. You need to be very, very clear and offer clarity of what you want people to do and show them how to do it. And then more importantly, the third point, how do they reach and how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Which is why working with someone now, you know the importance of working with good mentors and coaches because you did it in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
You did it in life.
Yeah.
So when you're starting a business, for me, it actually baffles me why people don't have mentors, don't have advisors. When I got into understanding a little bit about social media, I found a person that I really liked, and he shared a very kind message. He was a kind human being who I resonated with. Now, I reached out to him. He was a gentleman, shout out to Ahmedi Man from Sydney. And I said, I really like what you do. Coach me, teach me. So he helped me improve my LinkedIn game And he actually started products and like a small little business based on me reaching out to him. And he's very successful at it.
Yeah.
Not that I was the reason, but I prompted him because I really liked his message.
Yeah.
Kind enough to say yes. And we worked together for a couple of years and we still remain great friends.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So it's always a custom, Michelle, at the end of our podcast to go through our quick fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is the one skill you wish everybody should have?
Self-reflection.
I love that. Be a champion, not a victim. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my God. People that charge a lot of money and they don't deliver.
So not getting results.
Yeah.
If you had chosen another career, what would it be?
Oh, I would be probably a detective of some sort.
What's the most important lesson that you've learned from a mentor?
I can't remember. Nothing comes to mind. No one lesson comes to mind.
What about in Taekwondo or something that you took away?
I guess, yeah. The first time I went to break a board, I went to the place. I know this is supposed to be quick. I remember sitting in the car with the board that I was supposed to break in my hands, thinking, how am I going to break that with my hand and my foot? Like, how am I going to do that? I'm looking at how thick it was, and it's just not possible. And just the coaching that got me through, broke it first time, and just the coaching that got me through that. Yeah. And I remember just feeling like I could do anything.
The breath, what was it?
Yeah. Yeah. Both. Yeah.
Now, what is the best compliment you've ever received?
Ooh, that I'm kind.
How do you handle stress?
I work out, I walk, I journal.
What is the first thing you think of when you wake up?
I usually have a song in my mind. I'm usually, some sort of song. Yeah.
What is your biggest source of inspiration?
Me.
I love that. What's your favorite hobby that has nothing to do with your work?
That would be, martial arts.
The Taekwondo.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about your industry, what would it be?
It would be that people would be stop being sold that it's very easy to start a business and be successful, because it's not.
You always need to put in the hard work. Anyone that's done it knows that.
Yeah.
What's one thing you want to achieve this year?
This is a year that I'm actually letting myself just go with the flow. Yeah.
What is your favorite time management tip or technique?
I'm super efficient, so I don't really have any. I just know I'm efficient. I sit down, I know what I've got to do, I get it done.
What's the best way to get your creative juices flowing? What do you do?
Right.
How do you stay calm in high pressure situations?
I just am. I'm very calm. I think if I go and do something new, for example, if I did triathlon and things like that, and I remember just always coming back to, no one's trying to kick my head off my shoulders, so it's going to be okay. I always go back to those hardest times in martial arts, and just nothing's ever that hard.
I used to compete fighting kickboxing, and I used to compete snooker.
Yeah.
People go, they're so weird, so different sports, but they're really…
Pressure's pressure.
But I said, if I lose a game of snooker, I shake a hand. If I get kicked in the head, I can get knocked out.
Yeah.
So I saw the exact same thing.
Yeah.
What's your dream vacation?
The one that I do often, I go to Thailand, I train in a fight camp and just live, eat, breathe Muay Thai. Yeah.
I love in the Lumbai Stadium.
I stay at a place called Chalong, which is on Phuket. It's called Fitness Street. It's called the Fitness Street. If you Google that, you'll find it.
Last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on our podcast?
10.
Thank you very much for being on our podcast, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to see more episodes of Relentless and you like our content, like, subscribe and share. Thank you.